Right mates, how's it going? In today's video, episode 18 of Beyond the Dark Portal by Aaron Rosenberg and Christie Golden. 22 bloody pages this chapter, so let's go! Ner'zhul and the rest of the Horde had been marching for about a week. They'd reached Terokkar Forest without any problems, but one of Kilrogg's warriors then caught up with them, with a not-so-fantastic scout report.
The Alliance! They're right behind us!
They must have taken Hellfire Citadel faster than we expected. Damn it, Kargath. He was supposed to hold them back.
How many are there?
The scout then shook his head.
I couldn't get a clear count of them, but there's a lot. More than we have here, that's for certain. And they're moving at a frenzied pace. They're pushing themselves to their limits then. 8 lends 1 speed.
How long before they reach us?
2 days at the most, but their leader drives them like a madman. Rouse the camp. Everyone up. We march through the night to put more distance between them and us.
And so, within minutes, the orcs were on the move again. But after further marching, it became abundantly clear that the Alliance was still closing the gap between them. So they were going to need a new plan.
We can stand and fight.
They outnumber us by a significant margin. I hate to say it, but if we face them, they'll slaughter us. And while I would gladly die for the Horde, as would my clan, dying here will not get you to the Black Temple.
Well, we can't outrun them either. So what are we supposed to do?
We could take shelter in the ruins of... No, that's days away. We do not need to consider that just yet.
Sweat was beading across Kilrogg's brow at whatever Ner'zhul was about to suggest, which surprised and amused the Horde leader somewhat. Kilrogg Deadeye, a legendary figure known for his courage, was afraid.
It is our only option. We cannot run, and we cannot fight, so we must hide. And the only place in this forest we can effectively do that is...
A sudden change in the air interrupted Ner'zhul again. Felt like a storm was brewing, but all intense and concentrated and stuff. On instinct, Ner'zhul dove to the ground, and it was a good instinct, because a second later, a hammer hurtled through the space where his head had been.
Griffins! Take cover!
Chaos then erupted, with hammers flying about and orcs desperately trying to avoid them, but they were kind of failing miserably at that.
They're slaughtering us. Do something!
The Death Knight glared at Ner'zhul, with a slow, calculating grin forming on his face.
These are but a handful of short human pretenders and overgrown birds, Ner'zhul. I would have thought you would be able to handle such a pathetic attack. But no matter. I can, if you're unable.
The bloody cheek of it. Skull of Gul'dan had been right about Gorefiend.
You should not speak to me so, Terran Gorefiend. You shall not do so again.
Ner'zhul then rose from his little hidey hole, fueled by his anger, clenched his fist and concentrated really hard. And then, a sudden furious wind sliced through the air, and that wind then snatched up a whole bunch of dry grey sand and proceeded to scour any dwarf and griffin it came into contact with. And by scour, I mean rub skin clean off bones. It was gross but also glorious. Within seconds, there was nothing left of the poor sods but a pile of feathers, blood and flesh on the forest floor. But Ner'zhul was nowhere near done. He then waved his hands, and a bunch of rocks dislodged from the earth itself and shot upwards, hurtling towards more of the wild hammers above, forcing them to abandon their attacks and focus solely on evading. Ner'zhul then turned to Gorefiend with a smug grin on his face, and the Death Knight looked very surprised indeed.
Nicely done. Now let me see if I can add to the confusion.
Gorefiend then studied the forms darting about overhead for a moment.
There. That one. I've seen him before. He's their leader.
Gorefiend then raised his hands, and boosh! Energy shot out and struck his target. The griffin itself squawked in pain and began to plummet, causing its rider to topple out of his saddle. And although the griffin did manage to shake off its injuries and regain control, the dwarf couldn't fly, so he went ahead and slammed into the ground. Ner'zhul, Gorefiend and Kilrogg then made their way over to it. The being was bleeding from several gashes, but his chest still rose and fell regularly.
Excellent. Now we have a captive.
Kilrogg then quickly bound the dwarf, and then bellowed,
"Begone, winged pests, or we will slaughter and devour your leader while you watch."
And that worked. Any remaining wild hammers in the area decided they'd had enough, disappeared, and everything was nice and calm again.
We need to assess our losses, and we should post scouts to check out the rest of the Alliance army.
Ner'zhul nodded, but was currently a little bit distracted, because he'd surprised himself with that immense display of power. Where the bloody hell did that come from? Sometime later,
we lost a full quarter of our forces.
And the rest of their army is still racing towards us. Clearly they've sent the dwarves on ahead to wound us and slow us down.
How far behind are they now?
Maybe a day.
Then only one course of action remains. We must go to Auchindoun. No, not there.
Don't be such a whelp. We're out of options. That is the only way we can hope to survive the Alliance army and reach the Black Temple.
There has to be another. If we go there, it'll be the end of us. It will not. Auchindoun is an unpleasant ruin and an ugly reminder of our past. Nothing more.
Ner'zhul knew it was a little bit more than that, but whatevs.
Some of the tunnels must survive, at least for a short length. Within them we may be able to defend ourselves. Without said protection, the Alliance forces will kill us all, and our race will die with us.
Ner'zhul is right, but we must proceed with caution. I've no wish to awaken something we cannot defeat.
It's settled then. Right, Kilrogg? I should hate to leave you behind.
Kilrogg swallowed hard and lowered his head.
Ner'zhul, you know I am afraid of nothing that lives. Nothing that I can fight and tear to pieces. But that place...
However, Kilrogg then sighed, utterly defeated.
The Bleeding Hollow clan will go where Ner'zhul leads. Good. Between us, we will be more than a match for anything that waits within those walls. Now gather the warriors. We must reach the Bone Waste as soon as possible.
Both Kilrogg and Gorefiend nodded and buggered off to fulfill their orders, leaving Ner'zhul to contemplate some things. Did the Draenei dead truly linger in Auchindoun? Would they blame him for the actions of his former apprentice? Was the strange cosmic entity the Shadow Council had accidentally summoned within those ruins going to cause some problems? He sure as hell hoped not. Some more time later, the Horde warriors came to a stop as they reached the edge of the forest and stared out at the bone wastes that lay before them. It was an ugly, desolate place. Even Ner'zhul took a moment to take it all in. But that moment was soon interrupted, because the ground started to somewhat shake, and as the Horde leader turned back towards the forest, he found out why.
The Alliance is right behind us! Into Auchindoun! Hurry! Move it, you worthless cretins!
And so, the orcs all bloody cheesed it inside.
Well, the walls here are still structurally sound. A few collapses, but most of the ceilings remain, and the floor is passable. We can group our warriors over there, set up a strong defensive post here. The Alliance will have a hard time digging us out.
Some of the lower tunnels may still be intact. We should check those carefully before venturing forth. If nothing else is there, it might provide an even better stronghold.
Kilrogg nodded, and then sent some of his warriors to go check those tunnels out, but he did warn them not to stray too far. Then he, Gorefiend, and Ner'zhul settled in to discuss battle strategies and stuff. But a few hours later, one of Kilrogg's scouts returned, eyes wide with a faint smile on his lips.
There's something you need to see. What is it? We found something, sir.
The scout's smile broadened into a full-blown grin, which put Ner'zhul's mind at ease. Whatever they'd found, this guy seemed pretty bloody happy about it. So they went ahead and followed the scout, until eventually...
By the ancestors.
Before them stood several figures. An ogre and a bunch of orcs. Ner'zhul didn't recognise them though, and their clothing was very strange.
Who are you? And what are you doing here?
One of the orcs stepped forward and spoke up.
Ner'zhul, is that you? Where's Gul'dan? Gul'dan is dead. Nearly saw the death of us all for his own twisted ambitions. Ner'zhul leads the Horde once more.
The stranger nodded, apparently not very shocked by this news.
Then I submit to your leadership, Ner'zhul. I'm Vorpil, one of the Shadow Council. Though perhaps you do not recognise me. Vorpil?
Ner'zhul stared at the stranger. He remembered a Vorpil, a promising young Thunderlord shaman. But that Vorpil had dark hair and a short beard, and he was young. This guy was old. The Gorefiend then stepped forward and studied the guy.
How came you here, old friend?
Vorpil and the rest of the strangers hissed at the sight of Gorefiend.
Easy. It's me, Aaron Rosenberg.
Gorefiend? Yes, it feels like you. Trapped within that rotting meat. What has happened to you? What dead thing do you drape about your spirit like a cloak?
I inhabit the body of a creature called a human. It's one of the races we encountered when we went to another world, Azeroth, the one Gul'dan created a portal to.
Other world? When our world was dying, Gul'dan opened a portal to another one. It is there we met these humans. Gorefiend's spirit inhabits one of their corpses. We'll tell you all about it later, but right now we would hear your tale, for it may aid us in our current plight. What plight?
The ogre then stepped forward, but not just any ogre, a two-headed one, and a warlock at that. A rare creature indeed. In fact, there had only been two within Gul'dan's inner circle, Cho'Gall and...
Blackheart, is it really you?
It is. Though not perhaps as you remember us.
'Twas true. Ner'zhul had seen Blackheart mooching about back when Gul'dan was in charge, but he looked different now. Strange runes covered his flesh, and he had eye patches and shit.
But I ask again, What plight? The Alliance is right behind us. The humans we spoke of earlier, and other races they work with. We're outnumbered and cannot stand against them. Not without aid.
We cannot fall. The fate of our people rests upon us all reaching the Black Temple. He will perform a rite that will save us all.
Both Vorpal and Blackheart nodded.
We've been here since Gul'dan sent us to Auchindoun to plunder it, surviving within these tunnels and hoping to one day return to the Horde. And now the Horde has come to us. We know these ruins well, for they've been our home for years. We'll fight these humans alongside you and help you defeat them. I'll crush any who stand against us. Our ancestors have smiled upon us to restore you to us in this hour of need. One might even describe it as extremely convenient. Know that you are welcome in the Horde once more, and will share in our people's triumph.